So thanks everyone for the warm welcome, and thanks once again to the panel here. Let me just start off quickly. Now that the context has been set, let me just start off quickly with I'll start off with Amit. Amit, this entire we can't call it journeys, but the transition, right, or the adoption of funnels that happened a few decades ago, and then we moved forward, and now we have, as we keep getting more and more data, we keep getting more and more insight into consumers, we started having more journeys, right, that marketeers started to map. But really the question is, as we move between the funnel and the journey, what next in terms of where will this transition, where will this take us forward? And more importantly, journeys are essentially looking at the past data of consumers. They are looking at past behavior and then taking it forward to say, hey, that's what they're going to do in the future as well. Is that really a best way of looking at journeys? And if there's any better way of doing this?
So, first of all, Devang, thank you for inviting us, and I think it's an amazing place wherein we can share and learn all through our experience. I think the question which you asked is quite relevant to most of the brand, or I would say companies who are into the space of which is dealing to directly from D2C kind of segment particularly. If you look back how the funnel is transforming, how the business are transforming, it is important to understand the past data. Okay. Traditionally, we always look into the past data trend and then used to do the forecasting of the business and so forth, so on. But past data are not so relevant anymore, okay? Because consumers are evolving. They are more maverick now. They're traveling across the world. Their lifestyle is changing because of their economical status is changing. Their choices, what they're making is very, very different than what they used to do before. So I think if you look back, the past data is important. That gives you some base to calculate, but also you need to, I would say, look into the current trend, what's happening, what's happening around the consumer, current consumer, how they're getting impacted with the various things from a macroeconomy to, the social trends, how they're viewing data. Everything is how they're consuming information. All those things need to be put together, and of course the backing of the past data, but that data need to be looked into a different way. If that combination is achieved, and the plan, strategy, whatever you make is based on those current trends rather than just only on the past trend, I would say.
Right. Thanks, Amit. Rima, I'll just request you to share your insights as well. Where does this take us going forward, right? We've had funnels. As more data came in, we started creating journeys. The point was made earlier today that the journeys are not linear, and hence that lends a degree of complexity further. But how do marketeers go forward, right? Particularly given your background with real estate, where the journey is long and it can get complex. So how do marketeers sort of take it forward from here?
So basically, in terms of over-personalization is actually a backfire for a real estate as a sector itself. In terms of strategizing that really well, we have multiple angles that we actually take up when we do a lot of these digital marketing funnels that we actually create. In this, what we at the Oberoi Realty have adopted in terms of having two strategies which is properly been placed, which is opt-in personalization and also on the contextual personalization. So basically now what opt-in personalization does is, it's majorly having the buyer to actually give their preferences and how the styling and the frequency that they want to have their ads to be shown. So with that, we have proper AI being funneled, and there is a segmentation that keeps on happening. So we don't like bombard or do retargeting at a major scale, which is not our push strategy at all. And hence that funneling actually helps in terms of how do I create within that automation. At the same time, the another key strategy that I've built up is on the contextual personalization, which is majorly which talks about the value-driven content that which we can give it to the customer in terms of what kind of offerings, or in terms of just not that, maybe having more investment plans, or maybe what are the insights, what could be the neighborhood. This actually builds up with my customer and I can engage them with them really well. So this is how we actually connect back.
Right. So interesting that you bring about the point of technology, right? And particularly AI. I mean, I know it's a buzzword today. Almost everybody seems to be jumping onto the bus. So we have two gentlemen here who are particularly particularly well placed to answering that question. But before I come to the rest of the panelists, Mandar, it'll be really good to have your opinion on this topic. She talked about how over personalization can become a problem, but at the same time, what we see with AI and what we see with previously with RPA and now with sort of generative AI is that sometimes the quote unquote creepy factor starts coming in, right? Where the system just seems to know you too well, and it can freak a few people out to a certain extent. I mean, we've all had cases, I'm sure, that we were having a conversation with a friend about a holiday, and suddenly the ads start popping up when you're browsing something on the cell phone. So how do marketeers maintain this balance, particularly when AI is there and you've automated a large part of this process?
You're asking me the question?
Yes.
So I'm not a marketer in the current sense. I'm my company creates technology, but I'll give my 2 bits on that. First, on the data part. Look, we should be the last ones to complain about data because we are happily giving away our data to everything. Okay, so there really is nothing that we are hiding from anyone. Second part is I'll just delve into the larger pictures, picking up on what he said and what she said. One thing is what is happening today. Earlier there were heroes that consumers used to follow, but now every consumer is a hero. It is all about me, my content. It is all about me. It is not about anybody else. We want to be truly heroes of our own journey, right? So personalization becomes very important. How are brands able to relate to this person who is screaming out, it's all about me, I don't care about others. And the second part is language becomes a very important part of customization. So obviously marketeers have had a problem with how do we create those bridges with consumers in the language of their choice without incurring additional cost of creating that. But technology today can help you achieve that at scale. So we are in a very interesting world where from generalized advertising and building bridges with consumers, you can actually create personal journeys with them in a very, very scalable way. And that is what technology will do for marketeers everywhere.
Right.
I mean,
yeah, it's sort of the reason why I addressed it to you was, given the fact that you're somebody who's who's using AI as a core part of their business, right? What is the precautions that you take from your side? One part is the marketeer's perspective, that the marketeer will obviously, not want to bring it to a point where the consumer is unhappy. But from somebody who creates things using AI, what are the guardrails that you put in place?
Okay, so I'll explain to you. There are 2 types of AI companies. One is a AI company that is using wrappers to create a product and a service. So when you're using wrappers, you clearly are using third-party tools and third-party data. So there is a data pipeline that flows from consumer to this company and to somebody else. And there are certain AI companies who are creating the whole technology. That means there is no third party. So in our case, we are the latter. We have created our entire technology, including the research. So at least with us, and there are many more like us, where data is very safe. Because there's no third party involved. There is no transition of data from marketeers to us and from us to somebody else. So when we are taking our decisions, we have to ask these core questions on where does the data reside eventually, and second is where do the outcomes of the data reside. That is also very critical. So and there is enough and more knowledge about this. So marketeers should just ask these smart questions to their AI partners. They'll get those answers.
Right. Varun, I'll come to you in a moment, but Rupali, as a practitioner, once again, as somebody who's managing customer centricity for a brand as large as Adani, with so many consumers out there in the world, right? How is it that you address this problem where you are personalizing, but not to the extent where AI is becoming obtrusive and the consumers are unhappy with privacy being compromised? No.
Just press one.
Switched off.
Yeah, can you hear? Yeah. Great questions. Great question, because we are in a zone where we want to be given everything on a platter, but we are also questioning after taking it, like, how did he know? Right? That's the fear, and it's across all sectors. But if you actually look at customers and what you are offering to them as personalization, if it is in their benefit, if it is making life convenient to them, more often than not, he's more open to it. Of course, who is giving it to him also makes a huge impact. Like, if it is my customer, I'm giving the personalization, they are more open to it. But let's say somebody suddenly comes, I never signed up for it, I don't even know why he's giving me. Then I start having worries. So, as a customer, if I'm receiving something from a party who is known and it is given to me in a space which is my regular space, if I'm on an email or a WhatsApp community with that brand, I would like to achieve, and I don't mind it. But I'm browsing something on Instagram and suddenly I get a WhatsApp saying, hey, do you want to take a trip to blah, blah, blah? I am going to be very uncomfortable. So is exactly the same story with our customers. So what we normally like to do as marketeers and also as custodians of our customers is transparency. One, they know what we are taking and why we are taking. Very important. You have to reassure them that it is in safe hands and it is not going to be misused. And you honestly should not misuse it. I mean, I can't say that, okay, I'll not misuse, but here there are some newsletters and community invites coming to me from some big people. So be honest to your consumers. Consumers can figure out whether your brand is being truthful to you or not, because you're in the game for a long-term relationship. It's not a transactional relationship. So, isbar you tell something and get away, don't expect the same warmth and engagement along the line. It's just like being in a relationship. If you really want to have a long relationship, be honest, be truthful, and really mean it. Whether you use AI to do that, whether you are using personalization to do that, at the core of it, you really need to be true to your consumers. It really pays at the long run. And that's how we also work.
Right. So essentially the message is have your heart in the right place, and the consumers will respect
absolutely.
respect it back.
Absolutely.
Varun, as somebody who's a leader in the programmatic space, right? Companies engaged in programmatic media have often been a finger has been pointed saying you enrich the data beyond a certain point, and that in turn, while it drives better ROI, it is an encroachment of privacy as well, right? So again, and I'd love to have your perspective more from a forward-looking, sort of lens. How is it that what is the future when you look at consumer journeys in the programmatic world? And how do we make sure, both in terms of ethics as well as delivering the return on investment, and I'm going to come to ROI in a bit, but delivering the return on investment while not crossing the line on ethics as far as personalization and journeys are concerned?
Got it. I'll brief this with regards to what Amit, Rima, Rupali have mentioned. In fact, so first thing is, as Rupali mentioned in terms of the anything which is the hyper personalization is creepy, right? I mean, consumer get paranoid about how you know it. So it's about on platform and off platform. So anywhere where you have shared your data, I mean, where you know that particular platform have your XYZ data, and if they are personalizing with that particular insights or particular data points, you are absolutely fine with it. I mean, you want that kind of customization. Like, I'll share a few instances when Netflix is sharing particular content on the screen, wherein because of you have watched so and so content, we are giving you a recommendation based on that. That's something everyone want, because you in a content library of more than 1 million content which is lying on Netflix, you can't be searching all the content across, right? So you want, as per your preference, that kind of customization to be recommendations to be done for you. But at the same time, one of the instances where I was talking about, I met a CMO from a gifting company a week back in Delhi, and he was saying that personalization is something they want to stay away from, because on a gifting platform, average to 30 to 35% gifts are done, or people gift to somebody beyond their existing marriage or beyond their existing relationship and etc. And you can't do a personalization saying that, okay, you last year so and so date you have gifted to so and so person, why do you want to do it? And if that person is not your wife or in your current relation, it is not something you want to see that. So that have created a lot of a terrible customer experience for them. So they particularly stop using the name or using that kind of references where they have gifted last year perspective, right? So it's about how you use as a brand custodian. Definitely, you need to understand all touch points of the user, but you need to be wise enough to how you use the data in terms of engaging with your audience or with your target segments, right? Now, going with what Amit have mentioned in terms of the past data perspective, as a programmatic or as a data platform, definitely the old data help us, but it is not that we can be 100% dependent on the data, because an initial or the early data segments, whatever is available, helps us to do a predictive algorithm. But what, again, adding to what Amitabh mentioned, is you need to be adaptive as well, right? So you can't rely on a user who have searched for XYZ data and you keep bothering the user with that particular segment. Now, different category or different products have different consumer journey. Now, if I want to put it together, average buying a house perspective, average time for a consumer to engage, do the entire research and buy a property is average 6 months. When you talk about buying a car, it's again depending on the segment, it's average 3 months. When you're buying a phone, it is 3 to 4 weeks max. Or anything which is more towards a grocery or anything else, it is instant. So now, when someone who have searched for a phone 2 months back, I'm using that data and targeting that user with a mobile phone might not be converting. Right. So I need to be cognizant in terms of what all touch points I'm using or having that particular data of that user, and making sure that what kind of nuances is around, and that is what I should adapt and engage. Else, one, it's a wastage for the brand, because you are technically you're reaching into an audience who are not particularly looking for that particular product or brand, etc. Or at the same time, you're bothering the user with the ads which they are not interested to look at. Adding to what Rupali mentioned in terms of when personalization perspective, anything which is more generic, consumer would like to have personalization. Now, when I'm talking about a client like Dabur, Dabur would definitely want to engage with user when there is rain or there is a climate challenge happening, because they want to talk about Chyawanprash, wherein it's an immunity builder. So you say that currently in Mumbai it's raining, build your immunity with Chyawanprash. And that's something which a consumer would like to have it. But at the same time, saying that your child is running fever of 100 degree, and buy Chyawanprash to take care of his son, that might be creepy, because it's a personal information you don't want to others to know about, right? So that is where there's a thin line difference between personalization and privacy. I think that is some as a brand, as a platform, one should be cognizant about it. I think that's where.
Yeah, thanks, Varun. So I'll just come back to Amit because Varun made a great point around personalization at a segment of one, like micro personalization, right? And in the jewelry world, that's quite common. No two consumers, no two women or men walking into the showroom are actually having the exact same taste, and the same applies in the online world, which is why the merchandise, the size of the catalog is what it is. So as marketeers, Amit, how do you market to somebody where data isn't really the only way to find out taste? Because whether I like a floral design or whether I like something that is inspired by temple architecture is not something that directly a data point can capture. And also there is fashion, there is seasonality, all of those things. So as marketeer, how do you personalize really your marketing communication where there is such a dynamic behavior of a consumer?
So if you look at particularly our category of jewelry, which is again, it's not the basic necessity, so it's a desired, more aspirational product. Okay, so when you look for your customer, how to influence those kind of customer, it's primarily driven by the current trend, what it goes. Okay, so and if you look at the whole purchase journey, most of the jewelry are annualized purchased. If you look at the Western world, consumer buys very predominantly 74% buying happens because of engagement ring, which is more of an annualized event. When you come back to the Asian countries, like particularly in India, we need reasons to buy jewelry, and we have plenty of reasons. Akshay Tritiya hai to gold coin le lo, shaadi hai to you buy the jewelry, shaadi mein ja rahe to you buy jewelry, and all those combinations. So you have multiple reasons to buy jewelry, particularly in India. So what drives the trend and how data plays a big role in that it's an interesting part, in fact. So of course, the trend is driven by the seasonality. What is the, as I said, how macro economy is playing to micro economy. What's happening in the fashion industries, like if you look at the apparel, those things are impacting on the decision making of what kind of jewelry they're looking at. Now, other phenomena, what is changing in consumer mind is they don't want a locker-based jewelry. That means I take jewelry which is one time, and then I wear it one time, then rest of the time it is in the locker. People are buying product which is more of everyday jewelry, more transformational. I think here Rupali is here, and both the ladies, they are looking a clear example of that. So they are actually wearing jewelry which is more simplistic, more meaningful. So self-purchase category is again growing significantly. Like particularly in our brand, we use technology and data to define that language also. So we have something called smart tray, we call it. So when you walk into the store, you select a couple of designs. Okay, on an average, probably you pick up 10 rings, and you probably would buy one or two if you're planning to buy so. So you buy. It's very simple to take the sales data which has been sold, but we continuously measure to the measurement of the product which have been picked up from the shelf. Okay, and that is the reason why it has been picked up. So we continuously keep judging, keep watching on those data. If any product which has not been picked up by customer, we go into further evaluation, why it has not been picked, whether it has been not displayed properly, whether the sales staff is ignoring, and all those things. So all these things, technology plays a significant role. When Devang was talking about, you were talking about, AI play, So a lot of automation job, routine job, things which does not ever change in retail, like your return, exchange, billing, and everything, which actually does not require creative thinking or any, human touch. So those are getting automated. If you look at most of the brand now, you go, you shop, the bill invoices comes to your message or WhatsApp. Now there is a technology called ePOS. You can walk into the store, you just scan a QR code, your phone becomes a billing machine. You can pay through UPI, you can walk in. Okay, so a lot of things happening. Those things, routine jobs are getting changed, but the human element still remains. It's very, very significant, particularly in our category, because that's where personalization is important. And end of the day, you're buying a product which is more meaningful to your personal life, and somebody is there to explain you and why that particular ring, why that particular diamond is so beautiful and meant for you. So those things cannot be replaced by technology. But you can say technology is helping us spreading the right messaging in terms of the good thing what the category does per se.
Right. Thanks, Amit. So 2 points, interesting points, Amit, that you make there, and both of them actually I wanted to address to Rupali. For Amit, one problem would have had been depth, right? When it comes to personalization, because of all the nuance that you talked about, the different tastes, the different aspects that touch upon a consumer when the purchase is being made. But while depth is the problem, for somebody like you, width will also be a problem, right? Because the sheer scale of business for Adani Electricity, and hence how do you personalize at that scale when you have such large numbers at play? That is one. And then the second point, which I want to hear from you, Rupali, and then I'll bring in Rima as well, is around the human touch that you talked about. Particularly when people are calling in when they are not in the best of moods, right? If say somebody's experiencing a power cut and you're hearing an IVR on the other side, it can be very irritating to people at that point in time. So how do you address personalization, automation at scale when width is at play, and how do you maintain this balance between automation and the human touch?
So let me first start saying automation, AI certainly helps customer experience. They are not the bad guys in the story. They really are the good guys. So what do? They give you scale. They give you speed. To a large extent, for large cohorts, they give you personalization also. So if I look at my day or look at my month and look at the kind of traffic that's trying to contact me, there's a large chunk. It's like an 80-20, I would say. 80% of the times there are routine stuff which I can develop my AI. I use ML, I use other means, automations to get out of my way. And events which are sensitive, like घर पे शादी हो रही है and बिजली चली गई. It's a highly emotional and sensitive event. I mean, I do not want to the function to go in dark. There is a lot of urgency there. The emotions are riding very high there. I will not get an AI to talk or an IVR to talk. I will have to necessarily get a human being to talk to them. But I can aid that human being by giving relevant information, insights of who the person I'm talking to, what is his immediate need, what is the event that is happening, so I can garner my backend to go and address it faster. Because now I have to reallocate the resources really fast, because this event then happens to be much larger and sensitive than something else where the resource needs to go. So that is where my AI, my automation really helps me aid the human agent. So that is how you need to do it. I mean, I can't see any other way any other brand can do it. Get the machine to do your routine stuff. It helps you with scaling, it helps you with getting the stuff off the ground, and the complex matter, let the human beings execute. It also gives the human agents the mind space and the time to be actually hand-holding and taking care of it. That's a very good formula that works with us, and I don't see why it can't work going forward also. As we have moved forward from what automation was, let's say, a decade back, to what automation is now, even an IVR sounds better now than what it was 10 years back. So I think your technology is also getting that human aspect in the way it deals with people. And people also have matured. They are more accepting of the technology. There is a learning curve that the consumers at large have gone through, where they say technology will help me. It's not necessarily bad. But of course, they also have their boundaries. And as marketeers, as brand custodians, and the sector that we work in, we have to recognize that these boundaries are not sacrosanct for each and every event. One set of customers have a different set of boundaries. One set of sector will, in a hospital sector, the boundaries are much different from, let's say, a food sector. So that recognition has to be there, and you might be talking to the same customer there. It could be still Mandar we are talking to, right? But Mandar, when he's finding his flight getting delayed for 7 hours, is a very different person than Mandar if he's saying, ki, okay, it's okay. It's आज जब शाम को 1 घंटे के लिए बिजली गई है. I think we need to be cognizant of that.
Right. Rima, the point that Rupali makes around bringing in humans at the right point, right? Now, in the real estate world as well, no matter how nicely the the apartment or the property is presented in the digital world, finally there is a human touch. You will want to come in and see the location live, and at that point in time, you really don't have digital measurements anymore, right? And so if you were to look at it, from a futuristic perspective, how do you really measure, and how do you map out a broken journey? Because here now, until now, you had a lead generation system, you probably ran a programmatic campaign or something on Meta, you got the data, you got the phone call, everything is getting measured in a nice system, and then you suddenly have an experience which can only happen in the offline world, in the physical world. And now the journey can no longer be mapped in a traditional way, the way it is done. So broken journeys, right? How do you actually map them, and how do you utilize them when you want to move forward with the marketing?
So, in terms of automation and AI is actually seamlessly, there are a lot of interactions that are happening. At the same time, we being into real estate sector and the price point that we actually deliver to the customer, there is definitely human touch which is necessary in any customer journey that we actually built onto. To set a correct example, we at Oberoi Realty, we have introduced a design studio. So that design studio has a proper amalgamation of both the technology and the human touch, which you rightly mentioned, which is like a futuristic thing for us. In terms of giving a proper material, we actually co-create that layout for the customer there, wherein there is a proper material library which has been put up. So the trendy things that will be coming in, which we will build it in their homes, is something that we have created out there. Also understanding in terms of the overall sustainability angle that we get into is again being put up there. So all in all, so overall understanding and giving more importance to the design philosophy that we have built onto. Hence that both the balance of technology and the human touch is being created. At the same time, which you rightly mentioned, Devang, was on the lead generation part. Definitely marketing automation has played a crucial role in terms of how can we segment our audiences. In terms of when the fresh inquiry comes into us, how do we get that proper staging in our system, understanding our past data in terms of what demographic that has been built up to, and later segmenting that and what kind of communication that should go out to the customer. So that has been well designed within the systems. So not really pushing only onto the schemes, etc., etc. It is more relevant information that goes out. So a proper value-driven content that we can actually put up to the customer is more relevant for a real estate as a sector.
Right. So, right. Thanks for that. Mandar, I want to touch upon one point that I think we've not touched upon so far, and I'd love to have your perspective because you're somebody who offers technology to marketeers. is the perpetual or the constant role that a CFO has started playing in a marketeer's life, right? And I can see a lot of smiles here. I don't know if there'll be a lot in the audience as well. So the word ROI, which a CFO loves and a marketeer hates, keeps coming up every time around. And with performance marketing, with old school, let's not call it old school, but with the legacy funnel-based system, it was easier because there were specific areas and you could simply say, yahan pe itna CTR, here is the CPC, here is the money, end of the day, here is the ROI. But with the journey, there are technologies that address very specific part of the journey. Okay. How do you, and I'm sure the marketeers pose that question to you, ki if I implement your tool, what will the ROI uplift I will get? So how does that get addressed in such a dynamic world where so many technologies are affecting so many part of the journeys and personalization? How do you address the question of iska ROI kitna aega? I didn't think your mic is working.
Hello. Yeah. In all honesty, I think we are too early in the journey of AI being used by marketeers as a very important tool to build consumer bridges and to talk about ROI. I think we still have some time to go before we can get there. But I'll keep talking about, for example, we spoke about you discuss something on the phone and suddenly you start getting messages, right? For example, let's say you and I make a plan and we discuss, how friends do, hey, let's go to Dubai for a vacation. And I start getting all the vacation ads. But imagine, they are using data mining to create a cohort of people like me and then sending me a very generalized communication. But let's say I enjoy skydiving, for example, and I enjoy beaches. Now imagine if a marketeer was to mine all of this relevant data, which is personalized for me, into a video communication, and if they have an ambassador, and I get a message saying, hey Mandar, look, you love skydiving, I also went there last week, I think you really enjoy it, and here are a few things that you can do. Now that really completely elevates the value of communication, right? So I think before we start attaching ROI metrics to this part, we first have to learn how to do it in a smart way. And ROI, I think we have enough and more. We have television for ROI. We have every other established, mature platform for ROI. But we are in a world where we're all learning. So I think in all honesty, it's too early for that. Right now, the whole test is about marketeers have an idea, and is your technology able to execute it? So let's first get into that zone.
Well, I'm sure the marketeers agree and the CFOs don't on that front with you.
Look, I must also say that CFOs now are also experimenting with certain things. So, to whoever we have large clients who are using our technology, I don't want to take names here, but the CFOs are also aware that these are all bridges of the future. And unless you invest in it, you will not learn. So you'll always compete against people who are the early adopters and who are learning fast, because they can then scale faster and you'll only play catch up. So CFOs are very, very pro adoption of technology into marketers' lives. And I can share as a sidebar some more details about it, but let's suffice to say everybody is aware of what needs to be done.
So I'll just bring in Varun. Varun, again, somebody who offers services to marketeers. On one side, you talked about being balanced on how much data you collect and what is it that you show. But at the same time, the pressure is always on an organization like yours to deliver better ROAS, better ROI. The typical metrics that are very performance media driven, right? So how do you do this? On one side, there are limitations. It will probably come in form of law as well, sooner or later. In Europe, it is already pretty strict. So on one side, you have a cookieless world. There is all the data, first party data, what you can store, what you can't store, all of those things coming through. And on the other side, you have the ROI question that will, keep being asked. And how do you really maintain the balance between these two?
I think we're talking about three things, right? Automation, personalization, and ROI, in short, right? So, first thing I think from be it Amit, Rupali, and Rima, from their conversation, we all agree to one thing is the whole automation and human intervention both going to coexist. So technically, an hybrid model is way forward, and technically, in short, what going to help us is, or put it together, is efficiency and empathy. So for anything which is efficiency, you need automation. Anything which is more towards human touch, or anything where a consumer, depending on what mile you're engaging with the user, you need to have the personalization, a personal touch to the whole thing. Now, when you are inquiring about something in terms of user behavior perspective, wherein your early days of searching or inquiring about a real estate, which area, what's the pricing, and etc., an automated reply would help. Right? But at the final leg, where they want to understand about the pricing, square feet, or the kind of brands or product which is used in construction, etc., you need to speak to somebody to build the trust. So the recent RRI study says that 56% of the people in India don't believe in automation. Don't believe in automated replies because they don't trust that reply is coming from an automated system. So you definitely need a personal touch to the whole thing. In our case, the automation works for a reason, because we process average 3.4 trillion terabyte of data every day. Right. In India, we have upwards of 850 million new internet users. Users which we process globally, another 1 billion plus. So overall, these users, in terms of daily touch points, the content they consume, the apps they have in their phone, what are the locations they visit. There are many touch points which we cater to, and we can't have somebody sitting and processing this. So we definitely need automation. Gen AI or ML technically helps us to put that whole things into bucket segmentation, etc. However, now we are operating more than 18 countries right now, and each country, if you look at the consumer behavior, is very different. And forget about going outside India. Within India, if you look at user behavior in South, probably in Tamil Nadu versus someone in Gujarat versus someone in Himachal, is completely different. So understanding that nuances in terms of each area or geographical location, or in terms of their kind of digital touch points, you need to have personal intervention to guide the system to how this need to be customized, right? That is with regards to automation and customization. With regards to the whole ROI, I know you mentioned about the old school part of it. In the previous session, Ravi was talking about one should adapt to the whole change. I think that's what I would recommend, because where the future is moving is MTA, multi-touch attribution. So as a marketer, as a platform, anyone using or focus on ROI, you definitely need to adapt and enable MTA, multi-touch attribution, because that is where it helps you to understand. Because let's look at, we all are consumers end of the day, right? And our behavior is fragmented. We are on mobile, as we are speaking, there are fewer on mobile right now. Then afterwards, on your way, you'll be consuming digital out of home or any other out of home ads. And when you reach home, you're consuming on connected TV. So you are using different devices for different purpose at different time of the day. So understanding these user behavior across platforms is very important to have that touch point, and that touch point should be attributed back into your ROI mix, because that is where, be it CFO, be it CMO, have to understand where the money, where they should invest and what kind of return they should.
Thanks, Varun. So just before we conclude, one forward-looking statement from all our panelists, really. So when we started off this discussion, we talked about funnels. We talked about the fact that more data allows us to understand journeys better than ever before, and hence journeys keep becoming important. We talked about all the challenges that come along with journeys, whether it is first-party data, how do you manage personalization, and so on. But really, what next, right? From here, where we've come to a point where we do have a lot of data. Very often, the questions that we get asked, I can speak on my behalf, is what do I do with this kind of data, right? I have so much. Initially, the problem used to be I don't know enough. Now the problem is I have so much data, I don't know what to do with it. But what next, really, Amit? And I'll start with you. Maybe a couple of minutes on from somebody who leads an organization as large and as reputed as De Beers. What next from a marketeer's perspective? Do you think where do we go forward?
So first of all, you touched the point on data. There is so much of data, and luckily we come from a business wherein we get diamond out of kimberlite. Those are in the form of a rock, so we know what to pick. So I think that applies to when you have too much of data. One should know what exactly you want to pick and what is that meaningful data you want to engage in the future. Engagement with your customer. I think as an organization, we have always an openness for technology. Okay, and technology is used in a different way in every stream of business what we have. So say for example, upstream we have mining and exploration. I think we are working on some smart technology wherein we don't have to dig a hole in the earth. So we know the requirement, we scan the mother earth, we know where exactly we have a robo going and mining. So that's the level of mining and exploration work is happening. At a midstream, when you look at, we have technology which can scan a rough diamond, can tell you the polish outcome. It may sound alien to a lot of people in this room, but basically, you have a, say, 10 character of a rough can probably translate to a 4 character polished diamond. So yield is around 30-40%. But we can scan a diamond and give a polish outcome of it. So that is technology. So in the downstream, we have technology like a tracer. Tracer is like an open blockchain technology which can give you the entire pipeline system. So in the whole stream of business of De Beers, I think we have technologies everywhere. At retail, we are using technology to amplify the experience, but not to dictate the experience. So there is a right kind of blend wherein you can use technology. One thing we look as an organization is absolute openness. We are learning from different industries. How a apparel industry behaves to a food industry. I always envy the bakery guy who makes exactly the same amount of bread, and by the end of the day breads are sold, or the vada pav on the street. So I wish I can adopt that kind of inventory management system in our organization. So I think there is, if I have to sum it up, we have completely, there's an openness to learn and progress when it comes to technology, and we don't shy away from investing in technology, and we're doing some small but cute little things to amplify the customer experience. Yeah.
Thanks, Amit. Mandar?
See, I'll answer it in a different way because, like I said, these are marketeers and I am somebody who creates technology. But here, in the world of generative AI, which I represent, our technology really aids in video communication for brands, for example, as a small subset. Now the challenge is, for example, how are the outputs? One output is where everybody knows this is AI generated. You know that, right? Then there's a second level of output where if I tell you there is AI in it, then you'll realize, oh, there is some AI in it. And the third ultimate summit is when even if I tell you there's AI, you will not believe me because you will feel it so real. So from any generative AI startup that is creating all of these tools eventually for marketeers to be able to communicate with their TG, the ultimate goal is to create communication that doesn't seem like it is AI generated, because that then lends authenticity to the communication. So for us, the data really means that the more work we do, that work gets fed into the core algorithm, and then the algorithm self-learns to just make ultra realistic output. So like for example, sorry, you're saying something.
Yeah, so I think what you're saying, because the question is more forward looking, what next? So I think what you're saying is which is a little scary, which is that we're going to come to a point where we cannot differentiate content between what is actually generated by a human and then what is completely generated by an artificial intelligence at scale. Is that the future?
So for example, that is already visible in textual and image-led content. Okay, that last frontier on video is still to be met, because however hard you try to output, you still know कि यहाँ पे कुछ हुआ है गड़बड़, right? The next frontier really is that you will not be able to distinguish between what is AI generated and what is human generated, right? And like every technology, there are two coins to it. So whilst the scary part is whatever, but just imagine the possibilities of the future, on how fast you will be able to scale and amplify your communication to your consumers. Those possibilities are endless, and that's what we are most excited and robust about.
Right. Thanks, Mandar. So, Rupali, you've heard from Amit, you've heard from Mandar. What is your take on where does the future lie in terms of journeys, in terms of personalization, and to whatever extent technology plays a role? But really, in terms of journeys and personalization, where do we go from here?
So with regards to journeys, it's only going to get more complex to visualize as marketeers. Like the influencing boundaries, the premises that influence a unit customer to do some behavior that you want him to do, that set is getting wider. More sectors are interplaying with each other. There was a time when Mumbai would, like a metro, would influence the vicinity of the metro. Like you could say, oh, if it's Delhi, then the pockets around Delhi was probably getting influenced by what's the fashion and trend in Delhi. So would be a Mumbai. Now it's no longer Mumbai, Delhi. Somebody doing something in the US or in Australia or any other country is influencing somebody sitting in rural India. So while monitoring what is happening with my consumer journey is so much more complex now. Physical is going to stay as part of journey. So there will be a online journey, discovery, evaluation, awareness that's going to be done digitally. But there is a huge component of, what we say, they go offline and something happens offline and we here don't understand why the sudden change. So offline is something that we need to figure out how to monitor as robustly as we monitor our online journeys. That's one thing that we should be cognizant of. And lastly, because everything is getting built on data, we need to be very careful and consciously keeping the health of our data. Weed out the redundant data, make sure that it is updated. So what you call the housekeeping of data has to be part of our strategy, has to be part of our long-term plans for what we are building. Because if you're going to feed in junk data to your models, to your technology, it's going to throw out junk. And then you can't blame a strategy for a failure because you've been feeding it redundant data. So data housekeeping is a very important thing that we as marketeers should be keeping in our minds while building up strategy. Make sure you're doing enough investments to keep your data healthy. I think these two things I would really think should be something that we should be very conscious going forward.
Okay. Thanks. Rima, there's one additional point, which is coming from the point that Rupali made. So, obviously, it will be good to have your opinion on the same question, which is what next in terms of journeys, personalizations. We've come to a certain point now. But she makes a great point around, how to build teams internally. She talked about data. She talked about, garbage in, garbage out. What happens if that happens? Do you think really internally marketing teams then need to be as savvy about technology? And you'll almost have a chief technology and marketing officer kind of roles that and teams that need to be built going forward if you really have to win in the competitive market. So those 2 points, if you could address.
So I think we shouldn't forget in terms of technology is an enabler. I mean, at the end, what we mention as personalization and human touch is necessary for our sort of an audience. important for me here is having a proper meaningful communication when you have the data rightly being put up in the system. So because for us, in terms of understanding the demographic of that targeted audience is very crucial, because we as a digital marketers, we understand our past data and then build up our campaigns. So all in all, yes, the data, the technology is important, but at the same time, knowing your customer through a personal conversation is also very important, in terms of there are a lot of stakeholders in real estate as market, because there is channel partner, there are direct customers who are coming in. So all of data that comes in needs to be bifurcated and understood really in a better manner when we have a walk-in and a booking data comes into us. So all in all, yes, in terms of the automation also plays a very important role for us in designing our campaign really well. So we have a proper right targeted audiences that we can build up to. So overall, that is how it has been. It is playing a crucial role in real estate sector as such. So yeah.
Thanks. Varun, finally, coming to you, as somebody who is advantaged, I would say, of working with multiple brands at the same time, and hence having a broader view of how marketeers think and what is happening out there. What is your take in terms of where do we go next, both in terms of journeys and in terms of personalization that follows?
So first thing, Deva, you mentioned about data. Now, as a be it a marketer, be it a platform, there are immense opportunity for you to collect data, right? But what we need to understand is, or we need to be clear about is, what is the outcome or output you're looking out of with this data. That is very critical, because it's not about collecting data, storing data. It's about what end result are you looking at. Based on that, you should have the entire algorithm working on using this data. Else, one, you're overloading the data. Second, you technically not having the right output, be it any kind of queries or algorithms which you're running in. So what are the touch points you want to cover, and what is the outcome, what you're expected. Based on that is how your whole data analytic or data science strategy should be aligned. So that's very important. Second, you would need to be cognizant about the fact that the law of land, because now today we have GDPR, we have CCPA. India is already building our own privacy or compliance data security bill. So aligning to the fact that how we use data ethically, which is very important. Also should have the guardrails in terms of making sure that the data what you're collecting, be it PI data, as a brand, be it Abroy or DBN, etc., you end up collecting personal identifiers. You have the name of your consumers, your mobile number, email address, date of birth, so on and so forth, right? So how to make sure your customers' data is secured. So, and especially in the world today, data security is very important and critical. So making sure that whatever data you own, you use it wisely and you safeguard it. That's what, in a nutshell, as a best practice. With regards to future, what I see is one. There's already work happening on emotional AI. That is, we talk about hybrid model in terms of how an efficiency or empathy going to work. So emotional AI going to play a key role going forward, on that front. And other thing which, as a technology part of it, what personally I see is decentralization. So blockchain technically going to help the platform to get first party user consent in terms of customization. So the whole personalization can be used wisely and efficiently or effectively with right effectiveness for your communication or engagement. So yeah, these are the things which personally I see as a next level of automation, personalization, and ROI.
Okay, thanks, Varun. I think we are just on time, so I'll extend my gratitude to all the members of the panel here. Thank you very much for your time and the lovely insights. Thanks a lot. Yeah.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.